Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching.
Over Nevada, on a sunny day in June 2076, the sky came apart. 1 second it wasn't there. The next, it hovered above Nellis Air Command like a blade too large to comprehend. Obsidian black, silent, motionless. A ship that didn't reflect sunlight, didn't obey gravity, didn't announce intention. It was simply there. The Severance, 100 kilometers long, bristling with strange geometry, jagged fins, asymmetrical ridges, and a hull that shimmered like liquid armor. No engines, no weapons visible. But it didn't need any. It was a message, not a ship. Inside the Situation Room, silence held its breath. General Silas Trenholm didn't move, his eyes, gray and dead calm, fixed on the satellite feed playing across the central wall. The voice came 4 minutes later. Not from radios, not from space. It hijacked every single channel on Earth. Military, civilian, underground, encrypted, analog, digital, microwave, all at once. And it spoke in all languages. Humans, you have been identified as eligible for trial, in compliance with Synod Protocol 4.79, you are hereby invited to participate in the Crucible. Failure to respond in 7 planetary days will result in termination of species. The room was in shock, but nobody asked for clarification. They just watched as a second shape appeared, smaller, narrower, descending from the underbelly of the Severance. It dropped toward the runway like a silent missile, then stopped 2 feet above the tarmac and stayed there. No doors, no lights, just a motionless monolith. Select 5. Transport will occur at Earth Day Cycle 30. Do not deviate. 2 days later, they stood in the hangar. The 5, no names were given, no ranks worn. Their files had already been locked, redacted, and buried. Trenholm stood across from them, arms behind his back, jaw tight, words measured. He pointed at each one once. "Your brick," he said. Then, chisel, wraith, socket, grim. That was all. No ceremony. No oaths. You've all read the transcript. You've seen the feed. You know what this is. Trenholm paced once, stopped, looked at them. "You were chosen because you're the best," he said, "and because you're the last ones I think might come back." Silence. Then Socket smirked. "That's uplifting." Wraith didn't blink. Brick didn't move. "They call themselves the Synod," Trenholm said. "That's all we've got. No history. No context. No idea how they chose us. The ones who delivered the message, reptilian, ceremonial, are called the Varnock. They act on behalf of the Synod." He looked them over again. "What we do know is this. We're not the first. That message has the weight of repetition. They've done this before, probably more times than we can count." He paused. "They don't care what we think. They don't care what we want. We are nothing to them, until we prove otherwise." He stepped back. "I don't need you to win. I need you to make them remember us." 30 days passed. In that time, the 5 were put through relentless preparation, intensive simulations, endurance trials, close-quarters combat, martial arts, psychological stress drills. Their vitals were monitored daily. Nutrition, sleep, neural activity, all optimized. No names, no distractions, just the mission. Then, on the 30th day, they boarded the monolith. It still hadn't moved, still hovered above the runway like a curse. No pilot, no ramp, no engines. Then a column of light descended, silent, static, thin as a thread but impossibly bright. One by one, they were lifted from the tarmac. No weight, no resistance, just pulled upward, as if gravity had changed its mind. The moment they stepped inside, the interior changed. Seamless metal underfoot, cold air that didn't circulate, lights that didn't glow, but revealed. No controls. No chairs. A single line on the floor pulsed once. White. Then red. Then it disappeared. Transition began. There was no warning. No G-force. No light speed. Just a shear. A tearing sensation behind the eyes. Pressure in the teeth. Sound twisted. Air dropped. And then? They weren't on Earth. The Crucible didn't begin with fanfare. It began on Orshak, a dead world at the forgotten edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. The team stood inside a shallow black basin, a crater of dead stone under a blood-colored sky. The wind came sideways. The horizon glowed with a red haze that hinted at volcanoes or something worse. Far above, impossible monoliths hovered, alien towers that twisted in and out of view like optical illusions. Then the ground pulsed. Socket blinked first. Was that the ground? Breathing? Chisel dropped to one knee, pressed his hand against the stone. Heat. Faint vibration. Patterned. Alive, he muttered, or something like it. Far ahead, the basin curved upward into a wall of jagged black stone. Across that wall, high, massive, carved with something not meant for human eyes, the message was burned into the rock in letters 2 stories tall. Begin. A sound like thunder split the sky. And from the far side of the crater, 6 massive figures began to descend. Taller than any human, armed, waiting. "Movement," said Wraith. Grim lifted his shotgun, eyes narrow. Brick took 2 steps forward and didn't stop. Chisel, spread, find high ground. No one asked what they were facing. The Crucible had started, and Earth was walking into the dark. They didn't run. They spread out like they'd done it 100 times before, because they had. In deserts, jungles, cities. Places Earth had forgotten how to name. But this wasn't Earth, and the 6 shapes closing in weren't human. The wind kicked ash across the black stone as Brick moved first. American, 6'6", built like he'd been welded together in an ammo crate. Skin dark, eyes flat, quiet as a tomb. The kind of man who didn't breathe heavy after carrying a full-grown wounded teammate and a machine gun uphill. He crouched and unstrapped the LMG from his back, thumbed the charging handle. No words, just motion. To his left, Wraith slid down behind a jagged boulder. Japanese, compact frame, lean, surgical. Head shaved, rifle long and wrapped in desert camo. He exhaled once, slow. Then he glassed the figures with a flip-up optic. 3 meters taller than us, he said. Center of mass is armored. Right hands carry bladed weapons. Left arm, organic shield? His voice barely carried. To the right. Chisel knelt beside a ridge of twisted stone, eyes locked on terrain. Polish. Older than the rest. Sharp-featured. With a nose that had been broken enough times to look intentional. He didn't blink as he mapped lines of fire. "Socket, get me topographic data," he said. "On it," came the reply. Socket. Pakistani. Lean. Wiry. Always moving. Cybernetic left arm from elbow down. Not shiny. Not sleek. Military ugly. He crouched beside a synod relic embedded in the ground. Black spire, humming faintly. Already scanning it. "Local elevation shift 6.3 meters to the northeast," he said. "High ground there. Varnock signature tech embedded in the rock. Not active. Yet. Last to move, Grim. Russian. Youngest. Burned left cheek. Buzzed hair. Eyes like someone who'd seen too much and hadn't flinched. He moved with a shotgun gripped tight, hatchet strapped to his belt, no fear in his step. He didn't talk. Just observed. Chisel tapped once on his comm. "High-low. Box them in. Brick. Anchor left. Wraith. Eyes. Socket. Keep them blind. Grim with me." They moved. The enemy crested the ridge in full. 6 of them. Massive. Armor like insect plating. Legs bent backward at the knee, giving them a raptor-like gait. Faces hidden behind black masks with no eye holes. Just a vertical slit of violet light. They didn't roar. They didn't speak. They just accelerated downhill in perfect silence. Combat began at 30 meters. Brick opened up first. The LMG roared, muzzle flash hammering the air. His rounds tore into the lead creature's thigh, blew out a chunk of armor, but the thing didn't slow. "Armor's reactive," Brick barked. His voice was gravel. Wraith adjusted, shifted elevation, and fired once, high-velocity round through the gap at the neck. The alien collapsed mid-run. No scream, just motion cut short. "Confirmed kill," Wraith said. Calm, already lining up the next shot. "One down. 5 to go." Then the second alien leapt. It didn't charge. It jumped. 30 feet in a single arc, crashing down in front of Grim and Chisel. The impact threw debris. Grim dove left. Chisel rolled right. The thing spun its bladed weapon, not metal. Something organic. Barbed. It hissed when it moved. Grim was already on his feet. He stepped into the strike instead of back, slammed the shotgun into the alien's torso, and fired point blank. The shell hit. The alien staggered. Didn't drop. Grim grabbed his hatchet and brought it down on the side of its knee, burying it deep. This time, it roared. Chisel moved in from the side, knelt low, and fired 3 rounds up into the thing's jaw. It dropped. 2 down. "Left flank," Socket called out. "They're spreading." He threw a compact drone skyward. It pulsed, mapped, relayed data into their HUDs. 3 enemy units repositioning, 1 cutting toward Brick, 1 toward Wraith, the third vanished. "Where the hell is the 6th? Socket snapped. "On me," Brick growled. The third alien was fast, too fast for its size. It came in low, blades spinning like mantis limbs. Brick pivoted, dropped his LMG, grabbed the short blade from his chest rig, and blocked the first strike with the flat edge. Sparks flew. The alien slammed into him with raw mass. Brick slid back a full meter but stayed up. He grabbed its face and headbutted it. Twice. Then he stabbed upward into its neck. The creature twitched, tried to lift its blade again, but Brick twisted the knife and shoved it down. 3 down. Then it happened. Wraith's voice cut in. Sniper fire, far ridge, suppressing. But it was too late. The 6th alien had repositioned, not just flanking, but commanding overwatch. It was smarter, had a scoped weapon, alien design, no muzzle flash, fired electromagnetically. The round hit Socket. Hard. Knocked him off his feet. Left side of his chest plate caved in. He screamed once, a sound no one wanted to hear. "Socket's hit!" Grim shouted. Wraith instantly located the source and fired. The sniper ducked back. Chisel sprinted to Socket, dropped to his knees. Blood. Vitals erratic. Armor slagged. "Stay with me!" Chisel snapped. "Talk!" "Still here," Socket hissed through clenched teeth. "I'm fine. Chest just took a vacation without me." "Grim, cover us." The younger man was already moving, standing between them and the ridge, shotgun raised. Wraith kept the sniper pinned with precision fire. Brick moved to finish the last of the original 6. It tried to run. Mistake. He brought it down with a tackle that cracked stone, then ended it with the blade to the spine. 4 down, 1 pinned, 1 dead. Chisel barked orders. "Wraith, eliminate the last. Grim, get Socket up. Brick, move perimeter." They did. The last sniper tried to relocate, but Wraith was waiting. 1 clean shot. Back of the skull. Silence. Combat over. They regrouped around Socket. His armor was wrecked, breathing ragged, but he was alive. "I need a new rib cage," he muttered. "Anyone got a spare?" "Brick can donate a truck axle," Grim said. "Shut up," Brick answered flatly. Chisel didn't smile. He never did. But he nodded. First contact, victory. Casualty count, 1. Alive. Lucky. He looked at the others, one by one. Then up, toward the black towers in the distance. "Next wave's coming. They're watching. Learning." Wraith reloaded. Grim helped Socket to his feet. Brick checked ammo. Chisel checked the map. The wind kicked more ash across the stone. No one said what they were thinking. That was round 1, and they'd already bled. They moved out fast. Chisel kept the pace tight and disciplined, Socket hobbling behind him, Brick still sweeping rear. The Crucible wasn't giving them time to recover. Orshak had shown its teeth, and now it wanted to see what humanity did with the bite. The amphitheater vanished behind them as the terrain shifted again. Subtle at first, slope becoming incline, light becoming filtered red haze. Then less subtle. Gravity thickened. Every step pulled harder. The stone underfoot vibrated faintly, syncing with their pulse. They didn't speak. They acted. The corridor narrowed beneath a series of arches, obsidian black, carved with slanted cuts that caught no shadow. The light warped here. HUDs flickered. By the fourth arch, comms began to crackle. By the fifth, they dropped completely. Socket scanned the distortion field, jaw clenched. Synod interference. They're scrambling us. Brick slowed, frowned. His head tilted slightly, like he was listening for something no one else could hear. Then the floor opened. Wraith and Grim vanished without a sound, swallowed by a circular shaft that blinked open like an aperture. Chisel lunged, too late. Socket skidded to the edge and stared into the dark. No bottom, just metal, black walls, and nothing returning on scan. "No signal," he muttered. Chisel's voice was steel. "We move, regroup later." Brick didn't move at first. "You think they're dead?" Socket asked. Brick shook his head. "No. Orshak wants them alone." Later, Socket was working to re-establish comms. His shoulder armor had fused into the chest plate from heat deformation, and he'd lost sensation in his left hand. But he wasn't complaining. That wasn't his style. "Half-signal ping," he said, tapping his cracked visor. "I've got intermittent biometrics from Wraith and Grim. Looks like level -3. They're alive down in the pit." "Then we keep moving until we find the way down," Chisel replied. "And if there is no way down?" Socket asked. Brick answered. "Then we make one." They crested the incline and stopped. Ahead of them lay a trench, half a kilometer wide, maybe 2 deep, cut through the terrain like a wound. Inside it, rows of alien constructs sat dormant. Massive turbine-shaped towers. Machinery layered in alien metal and muscle fiber cabling. Synod tech. At rest, but not dead. Chisel lowered into a crouch. Observation deck. Socket limped to a low vantage point, set down his pack, and jacked into a portable uplink node. The signal bounced off the trench. "EM field down there is brutal," he muttered. "Active suppression. They're hiding something." "Do we avoid it?" Chisel asked. "No, we go in. That trench is the only break in the terrain for 8 clicks. Orshak's funneling us again." "Options?" "None." Chisel stood. "Then let's move." Beneath them, Wraith and Grim advanced through the tunnel system. It was shifting, not physically, but perceptually. Doorways reoriented. Corridors looped back. Each chamber tested a different instinct. Angles, light, sound. They didn't speak unless needed. Wraith led. He remembered the direction of wind, even when there was none. Grim marked the walls with ash. Together, they made progress where a single man would lose his mind. Then they reached the next trial. No monsters, no synthetic soldiers, just heat. A room the size of a warehouse, filled with vertical red pillars, each one glowing, radiating waves of temperature that would cook a man in seconds. A single walkway cut through the center, barely wide enough for one. Grim stared. Puzzle. Wraith scanned the heat plumes. Timing. They moved, one at a time. Wraith first, weaving between plumes. At midpoint, a new element activated. Movement sensors embedded in the platform. Every sudden shift triggered a blast of heat across the walkway. Wraith froze. "Go still!" he barked. Grim held position 3 meters back. Wraith read the pattern. Waited. Moved again. Slower. Counted silently. Then leapt through the last gap. Tucked and rolled. Made it. "Now!" he called. Grim moved. No hesitation. At the 4th step, one of the beams shifted angle. Unexpected. He dropped, rolled, and clipped the edge of the final blast. His coat caught flame. He hit the floor and tore it off. "Still pretty," he said. Wraith offered him a hand. Grim took it. They kept moving. High above, Orshak opened another path. Brick hit the floor first, dropped in silent. Rifle up, sweeping left. Chisel followed. Socket came last, wheezing slightly but functional. Inside the trench, the air was different, thicker. Engine hum in the ground. They moved past the dormant machines, all of them cold but not off. Each one had a vertical opening, like a sarcophagus waiting to close. "Biopods?" Chisel asked. "No," Socket said. "Command suits, pilot interfaces, designed for exo-combat." "Which means they'll be piloted." A low vibration hit the floor. Brick stopped walking. So did everyone else. "Incoming," he said. 5 seconds later, the closest pod cracked open. A Synod construct stepped out, 10 feet tall, armor like obsidian glass. 4 arms. One wielded a kinetic lance, another a plasma saw. And then another pod opened. Then another. 6 total. "Move!" Chisel shouted. They scattered. Brick went low and left, drawing fire. Socket ducked into cover, yanking a pulse charge from his kit and hot wiring it. 60 seconds! He shouted. Chisel opened fire with controlled bursts, aiming for the joints. It slowed one of them, but the armor reformed. Liquid memory metal. "Adaptives," he muttered. "Great." One of the constructs turned toward Brick and charged. Brick didn't flinch. He stepped forward, caught the lance under his arm, and shoved upward. The construct stumbled. He climbed it, grabbed its shoulder plating, and slammed its face into the trench wall until the glass cracked. It flailed, but he held on. Chisel tossed a magnetic grenade onto another. 10 seconds! Socket called. Brick dropped off the construct as it reeled. The pulse charge went off. Everything shorted. All 6 constructs froze mid-step. "Windows short," Socket warned. "Move now or we fight them twice." They didn't argue. Below, Wraith and Grim reached a vertical shaft, climbable, just barely. Grim looked up. "Hear that?" Wraith nodded. Faint gunfire. High above. "Rest of the team." Grim tested a grip. "Want to race?" "Go." They climbed! The pit let them go. They emerged onto higher ground and rejoined the others, the crucible already shifting around them. They regrouped in a shallow crater at the far edge of the trench. Socket was panting, lying back on a rock, his chest still wrapped in cracked armor. "Next time," he said, "let's just take the long way." Chisel looked up at the skyline. The black towers were closer now. Orshak had narrowed the funnel again, and this time it was pulling them towards something they could feel, but not see. Brick didn't look back. He simply said, "They know we're adapting." Chisel nodded. "Good." He chambered a fresh round. "Let's see how they respond to that." They moved in silence. The ridge behind them disappeared as the terrain collapsed. Not metaphorically, the stone itself folded inward, as if Orshak had decided the trench had served its purpose. Gone. Ahead, the path narrowed into a canyon, red stone walls cut by erosion that never happened, angles too perfect. The crucible was building lanes. "Funneled again," Chisel said. The canyon was 1 click wide, maybe 3 long, with vertical faces too sheer to climb. Socket confirmed. No satellite overhead, no drone support, no digital mapping. Orshak had shut them in. Again. Midway through the canyon, they found the first marker. A tall stone pillar. Black. Smooth. Inscribed with alien symbols. Motionless. Brick paused beside it, scanned the area. No power. "Visual only," Socket said, limping forward. "Warning sign." "What does it say?" Socket shrugged. "We don't read Synod." Chisel stared at the shapes. Not random. Patterned. It looked like a kill counter. And the numbers were high. Wraith moved ahead of the formation, scouting. His voice cracked into comms. "Contact, mid-canyon. 10 targets. Uniform movement." "Visual ID?" Wraith crouched on a ridge and zoomed. Synod infantry variant. Not constructs. Living. Organic armor. No visible firearms. Blades and hook weapons. Formation? Line. Brick muttered. Tested our tactics. Now they want our blood. Chisel nodded. Let's give them both. They set the trap in under 5 minutes. Wraith took high overwatch behind a collapsed wall of stone. Brick and Grim dug into position centerline. Frontal engagement. Chisel and Socket flanked wide to set crossfire lanes. The enemy advanced in silence. Not a charge, a march. All 10, identical height, identical movement. Insectoid armor fused with muscle. Spined backs, clawed legs, humanoid torsos. No eyes, no sound. Just blades twitching. At 20 meters, Brick stood. No orders, just presence. They saw him. Broke formation. Rushed. And the canyon exploded. Grim opened fire first. Rapid shotgun bursts to stagger the vanguard. Brick dropped the first with 3 shots to the chest and 1 to the neck. It twitched, but didn't fall. Too late. He was already on it. He tackled the creature mid-charge, brought it down, and ripped the blade from its arm. Used it on the next target behind it. The Synod soldier screamed, the first time they'd made sound. Wraith picked them off from above. Clean shots, head, shoulder, thigh, precision and pain. They moved like they were linked. One screamed, the others hesitated. Chisel swept through the flank, suppressing fire into their exposed side. But they adapted. 2 peeled off, flanked toward Wraith's ridge. On me, Wraith said. He moved, fast, cold, planned. The first Synod soldier crested the rock with a blade raised high. Wraith shot it through the leg, spun behind it, and broke its arm with the butt of his rifle. The second was faster. Wraith ducked the first swing, caught the second across his shoulder. Blood. Shallow cut. He didn't flinch. He drew his blade and severed the thing's neck in one stroke. Socket was on his back. 1 Synod soldier had gotten through. Claws came down, then stopped. Brick stood over him, face expressionless, shoulder heaving. The Synod soldier dropped, jaw shattered. You good? Brick asked. I was testing gravity, Socket said, gritting his teeth. You passed. It was over in 90 seconds. 9 dead. 1 limped away, dragging its leg, bleeding a thick black fluid. Chisel raised his rifle, but didn't fire. Let it go, he said. Why? Grim asked. They don't retreat. That one will report. You want that? I want escalation on our terms. They regrouped in the canyon's final stretch. The walls changed, smoother, etched in alien glyphs, not like the others. These were painted, primitive, sharp lines, symbols of war. Socket stared at them. Synod culture? Could be old, Wraith said. Could be a graveyard, Grim offered. Chisel shook his head. Could be a message. Brick looked up. At the end of the canyon, a new figure appeared. Massive, standing alone, unarmed, not armored, not machine. Alien says, but humanoid. Tall, pale skin marked by ritual scars. Dark robes, no weapons. It raised one hand. A signal. Invitation? Warning? Grim raised his shotgun. No, Chisel said. We see what it wants. They approached, slow, staggered, ready. The figure did not move. Then, without sound, it turned and walked through a gate that hadn't been there a moment ago. It left the gate open. Socket said, That's a door. Yeah, Chisel replied, and the crucible just changed. They didn't speak as they crossed the threshold. The robed figure was gone. No trace, no heat signature. Whatever purpose it served, guide, warning, something else, was finished the moment they crossed. The gate closed behind them without sound. No hiss, no hum. Just the pressure drop of air changing, heat rising. They stood in a new sector of Orshak. Above them, open sky, but framed by the towers. Below them, ground that pulsed like a buried circuit. This wasn't outside or inside. It was something in between. A built landscape. Orshak made it feel like a tomb. Darker. The sky here wasn't red. It was void black, like something above them had drained the light. The ground was smoother now, obsidian fused with artificial lines. Subtle grooves ran beneath their feet, pulsing faintly like veins. Grim adjusted his grip on the shotgun. Socket limped, but didn't complain. Chisel moved forward, methodical. Brick took rear as always. Wraith was already gone, 30 meters ahead, ghosting between two fractured pillars. "What's this place?" Grim asked. Socket was already scanning. Sub-level infrastructure. We're beneath the towers now. Purpose? Processing, power, command. Could be all three. Could be bait. Chisel pointed ahead. Doesn't matter. We move. They passed through the first corridor in silence. The walls were lined with alien markings. Angular, precise, not decorative. Something between machine code and hieroglyphics. Wraith paused once, touched a panel with gloved fingers. Warm. Alive. "Sensor grid," he said. "We're already mapped." "Let them watch," Chisel replied. "They wanted escalation. Now they'll see what that costs." They reached the command core 30 minutes later. The path ended in a hexagonal atrium, wide, open, ceilingless. In the center stood a structure that defied clean description. Not a console, not a terminal. A structure, like an altar made from spine and steel, rooted into the ground. Socket approached it slowly. "Synod relay node," he said. "Buried deep. This one's active." He dropped his pack and pulled out a compressed tool rig, already unfolding in his hands. "We do this fast," he added. "I can't crack it, but I can inject false data, rewrite our movement trail, confuse targeting logic." Brick watched the perimeter. "How long?" Socket hooked a line into a pulsating ridge and exhaled through his nose. 10 minutes. 5, Chisel said. "Then I hope you like incomplete lies." The towers above them came alive at minute 4. It started with a tone. Low. Like metal singing inside bone. Then heat. Then tremor. Then shadows. Grim pointed up. The first of the Synod shock units descended like a knife. It wasn't a ship. Not in the human sense. Just a shape. Massive. Cloaked in energy that shimmered violet black. It drifted down through the open ceiling like a shadow peeling off the sky. No propulsion. No flare. Just motion. It stopped 20 meters above them and split open. 4 figures dropped. Tall. Clad in interlocked plating that flexed like muscle. Elongated helmets. Each carried a different weapon. One a polearm. One twin axes. One a plasma hook. One unarmed. The one without weapons moved first. It blurred. Straight at Socket. Chisel shouted, "Contact left!" Brick was already moving. Body low, angle tight. He collided with the unarmed enemy mid-sprint, and the shock echoed across the room. They hit the stone together, hard, Brick on top, but the enemy twisted, reversed leverage, and slammed him into the floor. Brick didn't react. Just rolled his weight and slammed his elbow into the enemy's neck once. Twice. The armor cracked. Then he wrapped his arms around its torso and held. "Take the shot!" he barked. Wraith didn't hesitate. "One shot!" The round passed through the gap Brick created, hit clean through the helmet. The Synod warrior went limp. Socket didn't stop working. Blood ran down the side of his face, but he kept typing. No panic, just tension. 2 minutes, he said. Maybe. Chisel and Grim moved to intercept the other 3. The twin axe unit charged. Grim slid low, fired a burst, then threw a flash charge and rolled behind a pillar. The creature staggered, then roared. First time any of them had made noise. Sounded like metal shearing. Chisel advanced on the polearm wielder. Their blades clashed. Alien weapon longer, heavier. Chisel kept tight. Controlled angles. Forced inside the guard. Cut upward along the armor seam. Sparks. Then took a shallow hit to the ribs. Staggered. Wraith dropped the hook bearer before it reached Socket. 2 shots to the torso, 3rd to the throat. 60 seconds, Socket shouted. Brick dragged the unarmed corpse aside and picked up its sidearm. some kind of energy blade mounted to a knuckle frame. He turned it on. It hissed. "You don't even know what that is," Grim said, still trading shots with the axe wielder. Brick didn't answer, just moved forward and buried it in the enemy's chest when it turned. The axe clattered to the floor. "Done," Socket said, voice low. He slumped against the relay and pulled the cable loose. The core flickered, then dimmed. The towers above stopped pulsing. "They'll see the fake data," he said. "They'll respond to the wrong location." Chisel nodded. "And we'll be where they aren't." He looked at each of them, calculated. "This is how we win. Not strength. Position." He pointed to the far corridor. "We punch through, take the tunnels, get inside the tower before they recalibrate." Grim looked down at the enemy corpses. "You think they'll fall for it?" "They think we're slower than they are," Chisel said. "Let's prove them wrong." They moved. The next corridor wasn't a hall. It was a vertical shaft, 3 meters wide, spiraling down like a bullet wound into the surface. Wraith dropped first, silent, then Grim, then Chisel, Socket, and Brick. They hit the bottom in sequence, weapons up. A wide chamber stretched ahead, darker than the others. Thick mist curled along the floor. In the center stood a hatch. No synod geometry, no alien mass, just steel, riveted, labeled. Entry designation A03. They stared at it. No one moved. Brick finally said, "They built this for someone." Socket swallowed. "Not us." Chisel exhaled. "Whoever it was, they didn't come back." Grim looked around, saw more shapes in the mist, piles, armor, bones. He looked away. Chisel touched the hatch. "New plan. We don't walk into someone else's failure." "Then what?" Socket asked. "We make our own." He turned and pointed at the wall beside the hatch. "Brick." Brick didn't ask for clarification. He just stepped forward and punched the wall. Stone shattered around his fist. He rotated his shoulder once, then slammed it again. A crack spread through the wall's surface like lightning across glass. "Reinforced," Socket said. Brick dropped his pack. "Not enough." He pulled a breaching charge from the back panel, old school, shaped thermite with a directed shield and a remote clamp. He planted it, stepped back, and looked to Chisel. "Call it." Chisel waited one breath, then gave a nod. "Do it." Flash, noise, smoke. The room shook. The crucible's walls weren't just rock, they were alive, built to adapt. The breach punched through 3 meters of it. The air on the other side was colder. Wraith went in first. The interior was clean. No stone, no ash, just smooth metal that wasn't metal, textured like skin but hard as armor plate. Black corridors with no source of light, yet everything was visible. The team moved in, one by one, rifles raised. Socket turned to look at the hatch behind them, the Earth entry A03 marker, still glowing. "Whatever came through that," he muttered, "didn't get far." Chisel took point now. The corridors branched in trios, triangle junctions, symmetrical. Every hallway led to the next like a circulatory system. Brick stayed rear guard. Grim took left flank. Wraith kept the high points, overhead pipes, ridges, shadows. After 10 minutes, they found the first chamber. Bodies. Dozens. Non-human. Tall, bone-thin, decayed. Laid out in rows, orderly. Not a grave. A presentation. Ritualized. Wraith scanned them with a visor ping. Not Varnock. Chisel crouched. "Failed species. Like us?" Grim asked. "No," Chisel said. "Like the ones who didn't adapt." One of the corpses had a shattered mask fused to its face. Inside the mask, 3 small lights blinked in rhythm, still powered. Socket took a knee beside it, studied it, hooked a tether line in. "Accessing neural cache," he said. "You sure?" Chisel asked. "No, that's the point." It took 11 seconds. The blinking lights froze. A pulse wave moved across the chamber, brushing their armor. Non-lethal. More like a scan. Then the lights died. Socket sat back, pale. What did you see? Grim asked. They studied us before we arrived. Biologicals like us have done this before. The Crucible has files, patterns, simulations. Of us. Of everything. The next room was different. Vertical. A shaft, 10 meters wide, descending into darkness. No stairs, no ladders. But gravity fields pressed downward, almost welcoming. They repelled anyway. Wraith first, then the rest. Halfway down, Chisel called stop. Listen! The shaft walls pulsed, heartbeat rhythm. Something below was alive. They hit bottom, guns up. Immediate contact. 4 Synod Guardians. Same class as the previous tower drop, but faster. Smarter. They didn't charge, they flanked. Grim went left, took cover behind a curved wall and opened fire. His first 2 shots hit. The third didn't. It bounced. Armor's denser, he shouted. Brick charged head on. One of the Synod flanked to meet him. It had a kinetic shield this time. He hit it, bounced off, rolled, and came back harder. He didn't try to go through it. He went under. Dropped to a knee, grabbed the leg and pulled, then drove a short blade into the exposed hip joint. It screeched and collapsed. Armor smarter, not stronger, Brick grunted. Wraith flanked from above, dropped from a wall ledge and fired mid-air. 3 shots, throat cluster. Another enemy down. The third tried to retreat. Chisel was already waiting. Short burst. Neck shot. Finished with a knife. Socket backed into a corner, hand shaking slightly. The 4th Guardian approached fast. He didn't fire. He held up a device instead, blinking fast. The pulse wave hit the Guardian head on. A disruption field. Raw, dirty code hacked from the last Synod memory core. The enemy froze. Brick crushed its head with a stomp. Next level down, Socket said, still catching his breath. Final subsector. Heart of the tower. How do you know? Wraith asked. Because it's the only place we're not supposed to go. They moved again. This time the walls fought back. The corridors bent, shifted, closed behind them. The Crucible wasn't passive anymore. It wanted them off course. Chisel kept pace. Wraith marked intersections with thermal residue. Socket planted tracking dust in every chamber. Grim counted paces. Brick moved like gravity didn't matter. Then the environment shifted again. Floor gone. Just open air. A bridge stretched across a chasm. A single beam, 1 meter wide. Black as void. No railings. At the far end, a door. Massive. Closed. Glowing from within. They want us to hesitate, Chisel said. Grim looked down. What happens if we fall? No data, Socket said. Probably disintegration. Cool. They crossed one by one. Brick walked like it was a sidewalk. Didn't blink. Wraith sidestepped, rifle steady. Grim jogged halfway. Socket moved slow. Chisel brought up the rear. The door opened as soon as the last boot hit the platform. Inside, they found the core. They had no other word for it. A chamber the size of a football stadium, walls alive with pulsing veins. In the center, suspended by energy fields, a massive crystalline structure, fractured, glowing, wired into everything. This is it, Socket whispered. Central node. System brain. Can we destroy it? Grim asked. No, but we can crash it. How long? 3 minutes, maybe less. Do it, Chisel said. Socket moved fast. Then the walls opened. 6 enemies dropped. Then 10. Then 20. Not charging, surrounding, watching. Waiting. Chisel raised his rifle. Make them earn it. Socket worked without looking up. His hands moved across the alien interface like he'd built it. Each pulse, each command, was rewritten on the fly. He was adapting faster than the system could defend. 2 minutes, he said. If I'm right. And if you're not? Grim asked. Socket didn't stop moving. Then we all get to find out what a neural feedback cascade does to a planetary combat network. Brick rolled his neck. I'm good either way. The Synod soldiers didn't speak, didn't attack. They circled. Some watched Socket. Some shifted weight between their clawed feet. Others adjusted weapons, as if sensing changes in the Crucible's code and waiting for the command to kill. "They're stalling," Wraith said, buying time for the system to adjust. Chisel gave the signal. "Then we hit them first." Wraith shot the nearest one in the throat. Mid-move, no hesitation. Clean execution. The rest reacted instantly. The chamber erupted! Grim threw 2 shrapnel charges toward the left flank. Brick charged center line, straight into the biggest Synod unit, tackling it full force into the wall. They hit like thunder, and the wall cracked. Grim moved behind him, firing tight bursts. 3 down. 1 got back up. Wraith dropped from a support ridge and sliced another with a short blade, parrying its counterstrike with a wrist guard. His second shot took out the legs. Chisel rotated positions, laying down suppressive fire to the right, using angles, forcing movement, never overexposing. They were holding. Then 1 got past. Socket didn't see it. He was in the code, blind to the physical world, locked into the interface. The Synod soldier moved low and fast, blade in hand, angling for the kill. Grim saw it. He was too far, wrong angle, risk to Socket. No time for a shot. He moved. He hit the Synod warrior mid-sprint, shoulder first. They both went down hard, but Grim was faster back on his feet. The Synod slashed. Grim caught the arm, turned it, disarmed it with a knee to the elbow. He drew his sidearm and fired 2 rounds into the mask. It didn't die. It surged forward, claws extended, and pierced Grim's side. Deep. The breath left him in a soundless gasp. Chisel reached them seconds later and opened fire, riddling the Synod warrior with rounds until it collapsed. Grim dropped to his knees. Socket turned, blood draining from his face. "Status?" Chisel asked. Grim coughed once. Blood. Too much. "Not ideal," he said, smiling. "Got it, though." He held up the Synod's blade, the one he knocked loose, still humming with energy. Then his hand slipped. He hit the floor. Brick didn't stop moving. He was in full kill mode. He grabbed one of the Synod soldiers mid-lunge and threw it into another. When they hit, he grabbed a downed weapon, one of theirs, and learned to use it mid-swing. A hook blade, plasma-edged. He cut through both targets, hard, dirty. The chamber floor steamed where their blood hit. Wraith cleared the last of the right flank and made his way to Grim. Chisel was applying pressure that wouldn't help. Grim blinked up at them. "Tell Socket to finish it." "He's close," Chisel said. "You held the line." Grim smiled again. "You ever think, maybe we were never meant to win this?" Chisel didn't answer. Grim exhaled. Slow. Chest still. Eyes open. Gone. Socket didn't stop. "I'm almost there," he said, voice shaking. "I can feel it. Core's exposed." Wraith stood and turned. The last 3 Synod soldiers were repositioning. Smarter now. Adapting. No rush. Now hunting. "Cover him," Chisel ordered. They moved as one. No time to mourn. But every shot after hit harder. Brick took left. Wraith took high. Chisel held center. The last 3 came in fast, coordinated. A triangle formation with synced movement. Wraith fired first, shot through the joint of the lead soldier's knee. It stumbled. Brick hit it with the Synod weapon and cracked it wide open. Chisel redirected the second attacker with a sidestep, then swept low and cut the leg. It dropped. He fired a round into the base of the spine. The third made it past them, straight for Socket. Chisel turned to stop it, too slow. Then Brick moved. He crossed the chamber like a storm, didn't dodge, didn't block. He collided with the Synod warrior and carried it into the wall, not to kill it, but to stop it from reaching the objective. It slashed, cut into his side. Brick didn't let go. It stabbed again. Brick lifted it off the floor and slammed it down once, twice, until it stopped moving. He staggered. Blood leaked from his side in pulses. Chisel reached him as he went to one knee. "I'm good," Brick said. "You're hit. I've been hit before." He stood, unsteady. Chisel handed him his rifle. Brick took it. Socket's voice cut in. "Done." The core lit up. Every wall in the chamber pulsed, flickered, died. Then a shockwave. Not heat, not light, but data. The crucible reeled. Chisel felt it in his chest, like something immense just lost control. The crystalline structure cracked. Once, then split. The tower shook. Not trembled. Shook. Foundation level. Structure damage. "Fall back!" Chisel shouted. "We collapse it behind us!" They moved. Grimm's body was left behind. No one said it out loud. Brick was limping. Socket was pale. Wraith was bleeding from the shoulder. Chisel took point. They crossed the same bridge they came in through, now cracked, now unstable. Socket nearly slipped. Brick caught him. They made it across. The tower behind them groaned, then collapsed. Stone, crystal, synod alloy, all falling, crushing the core, the data, the memory of what had just happened. The Crucible wouldn't be able to learn from this one. They reached the surface again, 7 minutes later. The sky was different, no longer black, now dark red and glowing. Socket collapsed beside a rock, breathing hard. Wraith knelt beside him, checked his vitals. Chisel looked back toward the tower, now a smoking crater. Brick stood behind him, one hand pressed against his side. "We're not done," Chisel said. "No," Wraith replied, "but now it's our turn." The sky didn't stop glowing. It pulsed, slow, like a heartbeat, or a warning. The red light spread across the horizon in waves. Structures in the distance, towers, ridgelines, spires, flickered like failing systems. Something in Orshak's brain had broken, and it was trying to compensate. They had drawn blood. Now the planet wanted theirs. They didn't bury Grimm. There was no time, just a name, one the Crucible wouldn't forget. Brick didn't speak for 10 minutes, then said he'd have hated the sky color. Socket nodded, said it looked like cheap warning paint. No one laughed. Chisel pointed south. "We move." They marched across open terrain, plateau-like stone ridges rising like ribs under stretched skin. Wind pushed against them. Debris drifted from the fallen tower behind them. Wraith paused first. "There," he said, a dark speck in the sky, moving fast. Not a ship, not Varnock. Something new. It dropped low, a shimmering blur wrapped in plasma shielding. Then more, 3, 5, 9, incoming from all directions. "Synod answer," Chisel said. "Autonomous strike units, probably." "This is payback," Socket muttered. "Worst," Wraith said. "This is a reset." They moved fast. Orshak terrain shifted again. Ridges forming walls, canyons becoming trenches. The ground wasn't just hostile, it was reacting. The team broke into sprint formation. Brick at point, Socket middle, Wraith rear, Chisel floated between. The first strike hit 20 seconds later. A pulse blast, kinetic, not thermal, landed behind them and shattered a hill. Debris flew. Brick staggered but stayed upright. Second strike landed ahead, blocked the path with glassified stone. "Cut left," Chisel ordered. They dropped into a ravine. The drones arrived. Sleek, angular, almost featureless. No visible weapons until they fired. Plasma streaks, rail pulses, light speed fragmentation. Too fast to dodge, too precise to waste energy. Wraith went loud. 3 shots, 2 hits, 1 kill. Brick turned into a wall and punched a breach. They ducked through. Socket hit the ground hard. Didn't get up. Chisel grabbed him, pulled him behind cover. Socket's breathing was off. "I'm fine," he said. "You're not," Chisel answered, "but you're all we've got." Brick handed Socket a hard case, recovered from Grimm's kit. "Emergency signal scrambler." "Use it," Brick said. "Blind them." On it. They fought in phases. Wraith on overwatch, flipping between ridgelines and shallow slope. Picking targets, disrupting movement. Brick up close, intercepting drones that got through, using alien weapons, ripping them apart by hand when needed. Chisel held the team together, commanding with no words, only motion. Socket worked from the dirt, sweating, injured, surrounded by interface shards, patching code into enemy flight systems to force collisions and false target locks. It worked for 10 minutes. Then the next wave dropped. Bigger. They weren't drones. They were shock forms. Synod ground units redesigned after every kill, every mistake. These weren't scouts. They were executioners. 3 meters tall, reactive plating, weapons fused into limbs, red glow optics scanning in overlapping arcs. They dropped into the canyon like falling walls, no warning, no sound. Brick met the first head-on, didn't try to dodge, used momentum, grappled it into the wall, broke its arm, tore a weapon off its shoulder, and turned it on the next one. Synod armor absorbed the blast. Second enemy struck low, clipped Brick's leg. He stumbled, fell to a knee. Chisel was already there, suppressing with short bursts, adjusting angles. "Wraith!" he called. "Busy!" Wraith had his own problem. 3 shock forms closing in from the ridge. He dropped a grenade. Missed. Second shot took out one of their legs. It kept coming. Wraith moved laterally, jumped a ledge, barely missed a railgun pulse that vaporized part of the cliff behind him. Socket's signal jammer gave out. He ripped it from the harness, threw it into a wall. "It's done!" he shouted. Chisel looked around. They were surrounded. Then he saw it. A relay spire embedded in the canyon wall. Small. Meant for local signal redundancy. Still active. Still flickering. "Can you shut that down?" Chisel asked. Socket turned. "How fast?" "Faster than you can." "Try." Chisel covered him. Wraith retreated from the ridge, took a hit across the helmet, visor cracked, blood from the scalp. He kept shooting. Brick forced a shock form into the ground and crushed its skull with his elbow, then took a hit. Shoulder. Deep. He dropped to one knee again. Chisel saw the blood. "Fall back," he ordered. "No," Brick said. "Now." "No." He stood, shaky, but still standing. Socket reached the relay, hooked in, sweat in his eyes, blood in his mouth. 30 seconds. One of the shock forms turned, saw him, ran. Chisel fired, hit. Wraith flanked, hit again. Didn't slow it. Brick turned. Last charge in the alien weapon. Fired point blank. Blew its leg off. It still crawled. Chisel sprinted to intercept. Too late. The Synod soldier lunged at Socket. Socket raised a broken shard of Synod alloy like a blade and stabbed it into the relay spire, shorted it, and himself. Flash, energy discharge, crack. Silence. Socket fell backward, body arched, chest smoking. The shock form collapsed beside him, system-wide signal dead. Remaining drones staggered. Shock forms hesitated. Brick stepped forward, grabbed the nearest by the arm and slammed it into a rock until its spine snapped. Wraith executed the rest one by one. Clean. Surgical. Chisel knelt by Socket, no pulse, no breath. Just the faint smell of ozone and burned blood. They burned the relay before they left. Wraith said nothing. Brick walked with a limp. Chisel packed up Socket's tools, carried them himself. The sky was quiet. For now. The Crucible had lost control. 2 of theirs were dead. But they were still moving. And Orshak wasn't ready for that. The sky didn't pulse anymore. It burned. Red gave way to white. Not sunlight, but system overload. Atmospheric elements boiled off above them. Static charges ran through the air. The Crucible wasn't reacting now. It was unraveling. They moved without speaking. 3 left. Chisel took point. Wraith rear. Brick center, limping but refusing to slow. Socket's gear was strapped across Chisel's back. Heavy, awkward, irreplaceable. He carried it like a flag. They were headed to the last tower. The final structure on Orshak's inner ring, taller than the others, built like a blade driven into the planet's surface, visible from miles away. No reinforcements, no backup, no extraction plan. This was the last act. Wraith spotted movement 2 clicks out. Synod. Massed. Not stealth. Not strategy. Just overwhelming presence. Hundreds. Drones, shock forms, adaptive units, every type they'd seen, maybe more. The Synod had pulled the gloves off. "Full force response," Wraith said, scanning. "They're not resetting anymore. They're ending it." "They can't," Chisel said. "We already broke their loop." Brick stopped. "Then what's left?" Chisel pointed to the tower. Purge protocol. Kill everything. Seal the record. They wipe us. Say we failed. Close the book, Wraith added. Exactly. They reached a ridge overlooking the tower. The structure was surrounded by Synod forces, concentric formations, shifting like tide patterns, defensive grids pulsing beneath them. The tower's upper half glowed with internal light. The relay hub's inside, Chisel said. Last intact control node. If we bring it down, Brick asked, the Crucible can't restart. No resets, no new games, no future cycles. What about us? We don't get a cycle either. Wraith knelt beside a broken Varnock drone, half buried, long dead. He cracked open its casing. Inside, a core capacitor still faintly alive. I can weaponize this, he said. Brick looked over. Big? Wraith met his eyes. Big enough. The plan was simple. Wraith infiltrates the upper tower, plants the charge in the relay core. Chisel and Brick draw the entire Synod force into a kill funnel, just long enough for detonation. Survival wasn't part of the outline. They nodded anyway. They moved at sundown. What passed for it? The white light in the sky dimmed to a dull orange. Winds picked up. Not natural, just air displacement from collapsing weather systems. Wraith peeled off at the basin, disappeared into shadow. Brick and Chisel went loud. They hit the outer Synod formation head-on. No preamble. Brick took point, firing stolen Synod weapons, hurling charge packs, moving like the pain didn't matter. He used everything. Blades, fists, grenades, rage. Chisel backed him. Tight, clean, deliberate shots. They drew fire from every quadrant. The Crucible's units adapted. Too late. Wraith was already inside. He moved through the tower like a ghost. No alarms. No response. The Synod still hadn't fully recovered from the last hacks. The inner defense systems hadn't rebooted. The relay was at the top, buried in a spire of black crystal. It pulsed when he approached, recognizing the human presence. Wraith pulled the core capacitor from his pack, attached the trigger, slid it into place between two conduit forks, and activated the seal. Target primed, he whispered. No one answered. Outside, Brick screamed. Not in pain. In fury! He was bleeding from 3 wounds, barely on his feet, leaning against a dead drone for balance. Chisel was out of ammo and down to a sidearm. They were inside the inner ring now, surrounded, but still moving. Wraith stepped out of the tower's side flank, met them halfway. Brick's eyes widened. You get it done? Wraith nodded once. Chisel handed him his sidearm. All 3, he said. Brick took it, turned, faced the ring of Synod soldiers closing in. Let's give them something they'll remember. Wraith detonated the charge. There was no light, no shockwave, no sound, just silence. And then, collapse. Not of the tower, of the system. The tower's light flickered, died. The Synod units froze, every one of them, standing, weapons mid-aim, frozen in pose. Then they fell. Not dramatically, just powered down, one by one, dozens, then hundreds. Like marionettes with the strings cut, the sky went dark, clean, silent. The Crucible was dead. Chisel sat on the ridge, watching the silence. Brick sat beside him, breathing heavy. Wraith stood behind, helmet off. They didn't speak for a while. Then Brick said, "Think the Synod saw it?" "They saw," Chisel answered. "They just didn't believe." Wraith sat down, laid back, looked up at the first natural stars they'd seen since arrival. No systems running, no energy walls, just sky. "We win." Chisel nodded. "Yeah." Brick wiped blood from his face. Didn't feel like it. They didn't move for a long time. The Crucible was dead. No alarms, no patrols, no planetary hum beneath their boots. Just the slow wind and the distant creak of dying towers cooling in the silence. Brick's leg was still bleeding, but the clot had held. Wraith had lost feeling in 2 fingers. Didn't mention it. Chisel sat with Socket's pack in his lap, hands resting on the cracked casing. The data inside, hardwired backups, fractured encryption strings, probably worthless now. But he held it anyway. An hour passed. No change in the sky. No pulses. No orbiting craft. Brick stood first. The movement made his ribs crack. He didn't groan, just adjusted his grip on the Synod rifle he'd looted earlier. Any sign of evac? He asked. No, Wraith answered. Chisel didn't look up. We knew there wouldn't be. Wraith scanned the horizon. The Varnock brought us here. Maybe they come back now that the game's over. Maybe, Brick said. Maybe not. Chisel finally stood, strapped Socket's gear to his back. We didn't win for the pickup, he said. We won so Earth wouldn't be next. They moved again. Didn't know where to go. Just away from the towers, away from the bones of what they'd destroyed. It took 2 hours to clear the valley. The terrain no longer shifted underfoot. No more traps. No red markers or adaptive threats. Orshak was just a dead planet now. Beautiful in its silence. Brutal in its design. The kind of place no one would ever come back to unless they had to. They reached a high ridge near dusk, and that's when they saw it. A ship. Small. Black. Angular. Not Varnock. Not Synod. It hovered 30 meters above the ground, silent, with no visible engines. The air around it shimmered like water under tension. It didn't land, just opened. A ramp descended from nothing. Wraith tilted his head. No markings. Brick raised his rifle. Don't trust it. Chisel stepped forward. Didn't hesitate. Nothing else left to trust. He climbed the ramp. Wraith followed. Then Brick. Inside, the ship was empty. Just walls. Smooth. No controls. No crew. Then a voice. Neutral. Genderless. Calm. Transmission to Syndicate. Complete. A pause. Then, judgment. Passed. The ramp closed. They didn't feel acceleration. No thrust. No sound. Just the sense of falling through a void that had waited a very long time to be used again. They didn't speak on the way back. There was nothing to say. 2 gone. 3 alive. All changed. The ship dropped them on Earth 5 days later. The Synod didn't declare Earth worthy. They didn't declare anything at all. They simply added a new word to their data logs, one that had never existed in their archives before. Contingency. The Crucible had been constructed to test species worthiness. No species had ever broken it. Until now, the humans didn't win because they were stronger. They won because they refused to play. The system could not understand that. So it broke. Later that night, Chisel stood alone near the base perimeter. The debriefing had been postponed until the next day. A direct order from the General Silas Trenholm. Medical first. Rest mandatory. No exceptions. Chisel didn't argue. He just stared up at a sky that blinked with stars not red. He didn't know if they were safe. Or if the Synod would ever come again. But he knew one thing. If they did, they'd bring more than an invitation next time.
Hey there, space human. I'm really curious about your thoughts on this video. Drop a quick comment and let me know what's on your mind. Or just say hi if you prefer. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Also, remember to check the pinned comment. Trust me, it's worth a look. Oh, and one last thing. I've chosen another video for you to watch. Just click the card here, or here if you want the whole playlist. See you there.